If the roar of an airplane turned into silence, followed by screams? If you opened your eyes and saw snow, blood, and bodies? October 13th, 1972. A small plane carrying a Uruguayan rugby team, their friends, and family lifted off from Montevideo. Their destination was Santiago, Chile, but they never arrived. Some died instantly. Some clung to life. And in the months that followed, what unfolded on that frozen mountainside became one of the most horrifying and yet strangely generous survival stories in human history. The Andes, a mountain range so vast and unforgiving, pilots call it a wall in the sky. The air is thin, the winds vicious, the weather changes without warning. When the Fairchild FH-227 struck a peak and tore apart, its fuselage skidded down the ice like a coffin sliding into the earth. 45 people were on board. 12 were dead within minutes. Imagine waking up in the wreckage. Snow in your mouth. The smell of jet fuel. Your best friend lying next to you, cold and still. You're alive, but you're trapped at 12,000 feet in one of the most isolated places on Earth. At first, there was hope. The survivors thought rescue would come within hours. They tore strips of metal to spell help in the snow. They gathered around the broken fuselage for warmth. They prayed, but high above the Andes, their voices never carried. After 8 days, the radio crackled with devastating news. The search was called off. No one was coming. In that moment, a new story began. The story of how far human beings will go to survive. The mountains offered nothing. No trees, no animals, no food. Just snow and the corpses of their friends and family. At first, they rationed chocolate, wine, peanuts, tiny scraps of comfort. But soon, every wrapper was empty. The hunger was unbearable. It was then, in whispers and tears, that they made a decision so shocking it still echoes through history, to eat the dead. They didn't take it lightly. For days, they resisted. They prayed for, believing that by consuming them, they were carrying their spirit forward. Not betrayal, not desecration, but a desperate kind of generosity. Every day became a fight against despair. Frostbite spread. Infection killed more. An avalanche buried 8 survivors alive inside the wreckage as they slept. At night, they huddled together, listening to the wind howl like a predator circling its prey. Each sunrise was both a gift and a curse. But survival wasn't only about endurance. It demanded courage. 2 of the youngest men, Nando Pardu and Roberto Canessa, decided the only way out was to climb over the mountains themselves, on foot. With no climbing gear, no maps, and almost no food, they wrapped rags around their feet and walked into the white void. For 10 days, they trudged across peaks taller than dreams, driven only by stubborn hope and the memory of those who had given their bodies so others could live. At the end of that impossible journey, they stumbled into the sight of a Chilean shepherd. Help was finally real. On December 20th, 72 days after the crash, helicopters returned to that frozen graveyard. 16 survivors emerged, gaunt, unrecognizable, yet alive. The world was stunned. Headlines screamed about cannibalism, about horror. But the men themselves spoke of something else. They spoke of gratitude, of the bond that had kept them alive, of the sacrifices made in silence. Experts later said their ordeal was a masterclass in human resilience. That when civilization is stripped away, what remains isn't cruelty, but connection. The decision to eat the dead wasn't born of savagery. It was born of love, a belief that life must continue, that one person's death could mean another survival. Today, when survivors speak, their voices tremble but do know. They remind us that survival is not a clean story. It's messy, tragic, and raw, but it's also proof that even in the most horrifying conditions imaginable, humanity finds a way. The wreckage of Flight 571 still lies in the Andes, a silent monument of twisted metal and frozen memory. But the true legacy